Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the ultimate Cleveland sports show. Along with G. Bush, Jason Lloyd, I'm Adam the Bull. We got a lot to get to today, guys. We've got Steve, we've got Mike, we've got Anthony behind the glass. We've got Earl somewhere in the build. Is Earl here? I haven't seen Earl.
No, he had there was an issue this morning.
Oh, okay.
So Earl had to leave to go deal.
All right, so we don't have Earl in the building, but we have the rest of us. A lot to get to today. We're going to do some rapid fire thoughts on the Browns' loss yesterday, but then we're getting right into the Cavs, who deserve more coverage here as they played well to start this early season. We will talk about the Cavs late in the show as well. So normally on a Monday after a Browns game, we wouldn't talk about the Cavs at all. But today we'll at least spend a quarter of the show on them, which is a lot more than we normally would. So we're excited about that because, guys, there's not much to be excited about when it comes to the Browns. And we'll give you our first thoughts on it after this from Mikey.
Yeah, we'll get one reading, and let's jump right into things today. Our first Browns Today of the day is brought to us by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you get your money back in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win to receive the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game when you want. Shotgun reactions? Let's get to
go ahead, G. Bush. Start us off.
Hey, listen, the sting is gone. You know, I gave the analogy on my show and on the barbershop, and I said, you know, the Browns at this point, you know, when you go to the doctor and say you've been sick for a little bit, and you're sick and you got sniffles and you're doing the over-the-counter medicine and none of that works. Then you go to the doctor says, let me give you this antibiotics. Give you some antibiotics and you take those, but 2 weeks later, you're still feeling horrible. At this point, you're like, man, like, I don't know what's going on. You go back. You had to go to the emergency room. You get to the emergency room, you're looking around, you're like, dang. Like, go back to your primary care physician and take a look and see what's going on. Now they running tests. Well, let's do some cultures. Let's do a chest x-ray. Let's look at some blood work. Wait another week, blood work come back, all that come back, inconclusive. At this point, as a regular human being, you're looking around like, listen, I just want a diagnosis. That's all I want. Just tell me what the diagnosis is so at least I can fight it. I can have something I can tell people what's wrong with me, because other than that, I'm thinking I'm going crazy right now. The reason that happens to a lot of people is the fact that we want a reason. Humans need to have understanding to put context into life. So we're at the same point with the Cleveland Browns. They didn't change. They didn't got rid of the receivers. They done got a new quarterback in there, and Jameis played well, and then he didn't. Deshaun Watson ain't playing. Nick Chubb done came back, and it still ain't looked the same. Offensive line been moving in and out. And guess what? We still got all the symptoms of a bad football team. All the symptoms is just sitting there, and we have no diagnosis at this point. We're just sitting here throwing stuff at the wall. We don't know if the offensive line is old. We don't know if the play caller really makes a difference. We don't know if it's Dorsey. We're still trying to figure out what Dee Podesta does for a living. And that is why at this point, for all Browns fans, we're just sitting here looking around like we don't have a diagnosis on what's going on. And I'm going to tell you what, this ain't no 1 or 2 week fix. This ain't no just take this guy out and fix it and bring it over. This is going to take a lot of different situations going on. You might need a biopsy. You might need to have surgery. You might have to have physical therapy. Heck, you might even need to get some experimental drug lists, right? This is not going to be, take this out and fix it and give you some antibiotics. This is a long, hard road for the Cleveland Browns. And the frustrating part about it is, and the most, what takes all your emotion out of it is, today, I wish I could come on here and tell you exactly what's wrong with them and why they're bad, but I can't. They're 2-7, and it's a lot of things wrong, and it's going to take more than one thing in the draft, trades, or cuts to get these guys back to playing good football.
Jason?
I'll go one step further in your medical analogy. It's time to amputate, G.
Yeah, gotta go. Gotta go.
It's time to take a stick of dynamite, shove it right up their ass, and blow this whole thing apart. Just blow it apart. It's the biggest failure. It's the biggest disappointment in the league. It's the most expensive roster in the history of the NFL.
That's
the most
wild.
in cash spent. It's the most expensive roster ever. $337 million, $15 million more than any team has ever spent for 2 wins. It's not working. It's time to blow it apart. You got about 29, 30 hours or so to get what you can. I wrote today, this is the Browns version of the President's Day mattress sale. Just buy now, pay later, 0% financing for
Everything must
approved
go.
credit. Everything must go.
Does blow it all up mean fire the coach and GM?
Well, by December, this thing may be so corrosive that nobody survives.
Yeah.
We still have half a season to go, guys.
There's too many games left.
I mean, this isn't December. We're barely into November. Like, I still have leaves on my trees.
Right.
And I wrote today, I was talking to one of the veteran walking out of the team who looked like a zombie. He's like, I've never been through this before. I've never had the season over before the bye week. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Ricky, what do you do in this situation? It's like, I thought last year was a test for Kevin Stefanski in a way of all the injuries and just the mettle that he showed to keep that thing together in the face of adversity and get them to playoffs. I thought that was a huge accomplishment. This one will be even greater to just hold on to the boat because you still got a long way to go. And I mean, we'll see who's here and who's not after the trade deadline tomorrow, but I tend to think this team's going to look a lot different. And, get what you can. You're not going to get ones for a lot of these guys, probably not even twos. But because of the cap situation that you're in, because of the dead cap hits who are coming, everyone who ever said the cap is a myth is about to be proven wrong over the next couple of years about why the cap is not a myth and why it's very much real when you put yourself in the position the Browns are in. They're going to need cheap young players, and that means a lot of bites at the apple and a lot of draft picks. Blow it up and get what you can for these guys.
We joked a few weeks ago that the Guardian season lasted longer than the Brown season, which was true.
Yeah.
The Brown season is over before the Cavs have lost a game. Think about that for a minute, and we'll get to the Cavs shortly because they deserve our consideration a lot more. First of all, and I said this on my podcast, but if you weren't there, I will repeat. I apologize to the fans. Most of the people that do sports talk, and specifically on this show, are diehard, born and raised Browns fans. And when you're diehard, born and raised as a fan, it's hard to take your heart out of it and say, oh, my team still has, and admit your team has no chance when they realistically don't. So I don't blame anybody else. The only other one to blame potentially is Jason, because he's dead inside, as he's mentioned.
Just add this to the list.
Yeah, there you go. But Jason has no emotion whatsoever. Like, you got everybody else is full of emotion. Jason, you're completely emotionless.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm the weird combo of the oddest combo of very emotional, but still I feel like I often call it like it is, like Jason does, but I have more emotion, which is crazy. It's kind of weird. But I should have known better, and I, more than anybody else, need to apologize to our fan base for actually listening to a conversation last week about the Browns still making the playoffs. It was an embarrassing conversation to have. I should have never gone down that road. Now, I think it's completely disingenuous to say, well, a week ago we all thought Jameis, not we all, but you thought maybe Jameis could be a bridge quarterback, and now he can't. It's one game. It was stupid to go that far based on one game positive. It's stupid to go the other way based on one game negative. That being said, I think Jason was right. If you can get something for Jameis,
I'll fly the plane.
You trade him. If you can't trade him, then I'd continue starting him because DTR is not the answer. Let's stop kidding ourselves into thinking he might be. He's not. He weighs I will repeat the same joke I used yesterday, which is maybe in bad taste, but I'll say it anyway because I found it funny, even if nobody else did. He weighs less than my ass. So he's not going to stay healthy. It's not going to happen. He's not the answer. So con yourself into believing whatever you want. Now, I do believe that I will believe till the day I die, whether that's tomorrow or 40 years from now, that the right quarterback can change this team in a hurry. That's the only thing. You know, how much to blame goes on the coach, how much to blame goes on the GM, certainly debatable there. I have stood by Kevin Stefanski. I will say this. I said Andrew Berry should be fired. I've been saying that consistently this year. A couple of people in my podcast said, you know, Bull, if you fire Berry, you got to let the GM hire his own coach. And it's a fair point. Even though I've defended Stefanski, it's a fair point. So if they hire a new GM, although I have zero faith, I hope I'm proven wrong. I have zero faith that that Jimmy has the ability to hire the right people. As much as I rip the Dolans for their money spending, they know how to hire people. The Browns don't know how to hire people, and so I don't trust it. And I was thinking yesterday, man, if John Dorsey hadn't just lost his mind and hired Freddie Kitchens as a head coach, he might still be here as the GM. Now, he ultimately didn't get it right on Baker. He should have taken Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. But Baker's at least the starting quarterback in the league as opposed to Josh Rosen. Well, Sam Darnold's now a starting quarterback in the league too. So, but John Dorsey did, I think, more positive things percentage-wise than Andrew Berry or any other GM, frankly, has done as the GM of the Browns. So, as G said, and there's just a lot going on here. There's no easy answers. The only easy answer is to find the right quarterback. But the Browns haven't been able to do that in 40 years.
And that ain't easy. That's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's not supposed to be this hard, though.
But it's not supposed to be this hard. You're right.
Like, come on.
It's supposed to be.
The Packers find one every time.
And the Browns are not the only team, right? The Bears, and there's been some other teams that can't find a quarterback. But for Christ's sake, the Bengals have found, you know, Andy Dalton's arguably better than anybody the Browns have had since Bernie. I mean, I get when it's all said and done, maybe Baker will be better than Andy Dalton. But in my mind, Baker's Andy Dalton. I don't think they're all that different. Yeah. So, I mean, and they're not a good franchise. They're not a well-run franchise. They have a bad owner. In a lot of ways, in some ways, worse than Jimmy Haslam. So, everybody's frustrated today. I noticed a lot of apathy, though. People are just like resigned to. It felt like those years in 16 and 17 when they didn't win it all, and at least it was going to lead to something in the future, and it felt like it was for a number of years, and it's kind of all gone off the cliff.
It led to one playoff win. That's what it led to.
Yeah, two playoff appearances, one playoff win.
People are really taking note of that. Like we Joe Thomas played here, and we got nothing. Like nothing. Like his sacrifice for us being here to the point where we are now today is. Hey, we went 1-31. We wasted Joe Thomas's career. We got the number one pick. We missed on that. We missed on a bunch of other things. Now we look up and we got one win. A COVID win at that.
Yeah.
Nobody was even at the game.
That's right. I dismiss everything that happened in the COVID year. By the way, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who I believe just became the first team in sports that won a championship in the COVID year. Who won the COVID championship in football? Why can't I remember that? Was it the Chiefs?
No, it was the Buccaneers.
Okay, it was the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers are the first team of the teams that won a championship in the COVID year to win another. And if you listen to some of the post-game stuff from the Dodgers,
it mattered.
They essentially said, "Yeah, this one matters. The other one didn't."
Think about it. The Lakers won a COVID championship, and they ain't even been close.
Those championships were all fraudulent. So the only win they have is the fraudulent COVID game with nobody in the stands. It was just a total joke. And nothing has come out. All that losing, and nothing has come out of it. Or almost nothing. Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to give one thought on the Browns, and we'll pivot over to the Cavs here. And I have a FanDuel ticket I have to show you guys, or tell you guys about that was absurd on the Cavs. But G said it earlier, Jason said it, you said it, we said it on the postgame show yesterday. There are so many issues and so many problems and so many negatives about the Browns right now. It is impossible to pinpoint one specific issue that isn't bleeding over into the next issue,
Right.
and into the next issue, and into the next issue.
But
and
the quarterback is the biggest.
You're 100%
yeah,
right.
the quarterback is the biggest
There
position
are other
in all.
issues. Certainly.
If you fit, I mean, look at last week when Jameis played well. When the quarterback plays well, it covers up so many other sins and so many other blemishes.
I'm not
You have to get
disagreeing with that
right.
whatsoever. I'm just saying when you look at this whole organization right now and you're like, okay, what's the path forward? Yes, obviously an improved quarterback helps everything. But there are so many other issues down the road that bad quarterback play then hides that you can't truly evaluate. So are you sure player X and Y are as good as we thought they were, or do you not really have something? It is an entire trickle-down effect. And to Jason's analogy earlier, putting the dynamite up someone's butt and letting it explode, I'm at that point too. Whether it's the head coach, a GM, all the above,
Yeah.
I think it's time for a fresh
Let me just
start.
tell you something. This is how quick you can turn around. I know the Bengals are not having a great season, but they still got a shot to make the playoffs. They're 4-5 after winning.
They have a great quarterback.
The Bengals are 0-9 without Joe Burrow. Maybe 1-8. Their defense stinks. It stinks across the board. They have 2 or 3 decent players. The rest of the defense stinks. Their offensive line is average at best. I like their young running back. He's a nice player, but I'll say he's above average. Obviously, you got a great wide receiver in Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is very good too, but he's missed half the season. They have nobody special at tight end, but they've got a great quarterback. So they're 4-5.
Well, you look at Joe Burrow the year he came out, right? Everybody and their mom knew Joe Burrow was the truth. Everybody.
Yeah.
There was a consensus. Nobody said, oh, this other guy. No. It's Joe Burrow. This year, it's like I'm looking at this draft and I'm like,
I know.
There's not a Joe Burrow.
there ain't no Burrows.
Yeah.
It's
And-
a bunch of guys with some of the same skill sets, and then you have to ask yourself, do I trust the GM to make the right decision on that? And then I have to ask, does this quarterback fit into all of the other stuff that we've been doing offensively? And
Yeah.
are we going to have to go through that again? What does he like to run? What did he run in college?
Right.
What does he do well? All of these things. And when Joe Burrow came in, you knew Joe Burrow was, what did he do well? Spin it. So let's go ahead and come in here and spin the football.
Yeah.
There isn't, it's just, that's why they're checking out. I'm telling you, all them people, the vitriol is gone from the Watson thing because that's off the table. Now it's just a mess. It's just all a mess, and we don't know what we're gonna do. And Jimmy Haslam has to identify which one of these moving shell game and pieces and parts to swap out, because something's gonna change.
Yeah.
But we don't know what that is.
It's a dark place right now for Browns fans, the darkest it's been in a while. We will check back in on the Browns in a little while, but now it's time to check in on a team that's actually playing great. And that's
Yeah, the
Cavs.
Browns have 7 losses. The Cavs have 7 wins. And if you want to get in on any of the action with the NFL or NBA, you better be using FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and the NBA all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And guys, before we talk about the Cavs, our guy Shupak Shakur,
Oh, that's elite.
great name.
That's elite.
I'm going to tell you
like
all
that.
the legs of this parlay, and he bet $2 on it. You tell me what you think his profit is. He hit this. This is from the Cavs-Bucks game on Saturday.
Okay.
Donovan to score 30, he did. Brooke Lopez to make 2 threes, he did. Giannis, 14 or more rebounds, he did. Giannis, 8 or more assists, got it. Dean Wade, 2 threes. Torian Prince, 2 threes. Donovan, 4 threes. And Lillard, 30 points. He bet $2. What do you think the profit on that 8-part same-game parlay was?
3,486.
4,212.
Wow, I was gonna say like $300 or $400.
Oh,
Jason's technically the closest.
okay.
He won $1,523 on a $2 bet.
Wow.
So shout out to Shupak Shakur.
I was way off, though.
For the, but you went under. They went 4,000, 5,000. They doubled. You were
Yeah.
at least within 1,000.
That's a lot.
Great W. You have a winning FanDuel ticket. Send it in to us. And guys, it was a heck of a win on Saturday. Donovan with the game winner against the Bucks. The Cavs are 7-0. The NBA's lone 7-0 team. They have a chance to go for 8-0 tonight. We'll talk about the 8-0 pursuit at the end of the show when we preview tonight's game in particular. But, Bull, you were tweeting about it. You were texting us about it. I got a text from someone in the Cavs saying, is Bull really watching, or do you think he's faking it? And I told him, no, I know for a fact he's really watching. Bull, you said last week the regular season's meaningless. It doesn't matter. But you are now bought in because this Cavs team's playing at such a high level.
Did you really get a text from somebody asking
Swear
if
to
I was watching
goodness.
for
Swear, yeah, swear.
That's so funny. I was really watching, yes. It was. I'm trying to think if it was the first game. No, I watched the Knicks game, and I watched one other game. I don't remember which
You
one.
watched the opener against the Raptors.
Not really. I had it on, but I wasn't paying attention. I keep it real. The fourth quarter in particular. Now, listen, I'm not changing my general stance that the regular season essentially means little, if anything. But I'm kind of forcing myself to put that on the side. And I was like, all right, I'm going to get into this game tonight. A winning streak to start the season is exciting. Right? I know this wasn't to start the season, but in 2017, when the Guardians went on that winning streak, what, they win 20 in a row?
Yeah, in August.
Like,
20
the whole
something.
town was into that.
Yeah.
Almost as much as anything involving the Guardians beside, even including some early season playoff, like early round playoff games. The whole town was abuzz. Winning streaks are exciting. Even if they ultimately don't mean much, they're exciting. The second the Cavs lose a game this year, if it's tonight or whenever, it's the excitement of their start, even though they'll still be 8-1 or 9-1, whatever, won't be as exciting. Because there's something special about a winning streak that gives you this buzzy feeling. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, all right, the Cavs are playing the Bucks. I know the Bucks are not off to a good start, but they're still the Bucks. They got Damian Lillard. They got Giannis. I'm excited about this game. So I'm locked in. But by the fourth quarter, it really at least to me, it felt like a playoff game. Because I was really into it, which is shocking because everybody knows I'm not into regular season basketball. But the way, especially at the end of the game, with both teams going back and forth, Dame Lillard playing great for them, and then for Mitchell to hit that shot to win the game with what, 0.3 left, I think it was. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was awesome. That's what you want. That game, even though it's more about threes now, reminded me of watching the Saturday game or the Sunday game of the week, whatever it was, on NBC as a kid, when the great players would play, because they all played in the regular season then, and you'd have these great games you'd want to watch, and that had that kind of feeling to it. And, Giannis still had a good game. It wasn't like he was out, we'll talk about tonight later, and Lillard was playing great, and yet the Cavs found a way to pull it out on the road, and it continued the winning streak, which for me was very exciting. So, yeah, I was into it for the first time this year. And I'll be into it tonight. I'll be locked in watching tonight. Although if Giannis doesn't play, and again we'll get to that later, that will steal some of the steam from the excitement of it to me.
This one, this is different from, remember the win streak they had last year when I think it was Donovan or Darius Garland and Mobley were out. And they were rocking and rolling. We were like, oh, this team plays, this is great. This is going to be nice. And then they came back and then they kind of fell off a little bit. This is completely different. This whole vibe with them being 7-0, if you look at what they're doing, it's amazing. The offense is completely different. The ball moves side to side like I've never seen it before. Guys are playing aggressively, but the ball is finding the open guy, and guys like Isaac Okoro, he knocking down open shots.
He hit a big shot late in that game, too.
Huge shot.
Great game.
He had a great game. And the most impressive part about this is the Bucks was firing on all cylinders. They came out in the first quarter and had them down almost 20 points. Damian Lillard hit something stupid like 23s or something. Like the dude was just unconscious. Lillard kept hitting big shots after big shots. Giannis was doing his thing. But I love the fact that the Cavaliers, it mattered to them. You could see some of that grit that they had against the Knicks where they pulled that game out. They've won in every way possible that you can win. They've had some close games. They've had some blowouts. They have some coming from behind games. You get the game winner right here. And the most impressive thing about them is none of them are playing crazy minutes. Guys are playing under 30 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. So they're doing this with a collective effort. I love the new offense. I love what they're doing. And by the way, they tell and this is the cool thing about it, they tell Darius Garland, hey, listen, Hey, calm down, bro. If you're going to be the third best player, we can win with that. We'll win with that. Evan Mobley. Hey, listen, as long as you continue to be aggressive, and you're aggressive like you are, Jared Allen don't miss shots. Isaac Okoro, Karis LeVert didn't even play in this game, and he's been hot from the outside. If Darius Garland's going to give me 11 and 10 assists, and they still win a ball game, that tells you something, Jason.
By the way, in terms of minutes, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley are averaging 29.6 minutes a game. Allen's averaging 29.3. Garland, 28.1. Dean Wade, 23.9. LeVert, 21.7. So nobody is 30 minutes or more so far.
The most telling sign to me that it was a playoff type atmosphere, guys are on the floor. Guys don't dive on the floor in the NBA. Not in November.
Yeah.
And guys are on the floor. And you know, I'm with you. I tweeted it felt like a conference semifinal, not a random game in November.
Yeah.
And that's a game that the Cavs probably should lose. It's the second night of a back-to-back. You're on the road.
Yeah.
Like those are kind of like schedule losses. And the Bucks were playing hard because they have not played well this year.
Right.
And the Bucks are a team that they don't care about. Once you win a championship, you don't care about the regular season. You understand how long of a grind it is.
Right. But they did Saturday.
But at the same time, what are they, Mike? 1-5 now?
They're 1-5. Yeah, they needed that game. That was a game that they went out trying to win. And you can see the effort from Dame and Giannis. Like, they came out guns blazing, trying to put the Cavs away early. And kudos to the Cavs for fighting back.
So there's a balance between, all right, we don't really care about the regular season, and we can't bury ourselves in a hole before Thanksgiving to where we're climbing up the hole, all season long.
Yeah.
So when Mike and I did the preseason Cavs podcast, I said the only two teams in the East that I thought were definitively better than the Cavs were the Celtics and the Bucks. We'll see as this plays out. I mean, the Cavs are obviously off to an incredible start. We talked about it last week. Kenny Atkinson said, we're shooting above our heads right now. Let's just slow down a little bit. Like, this will course correct. And at some point it will course correct. But this is a really good basketball team who can win who can beat you in a number of different ways. They're still really good defensively. The shooting has been spectacular to this point. They can score inside. They've got multiple guys who can dribble, pass, and shoot. They're built the right way, and they're incredibly deep. So it's going to be fun to watch this team go and to see how far they can actually take this. I would still for sure put Boston above them. I just think Boston is just too good. And we'll see. Cavs, Cleveland, and Milwaukee, we'll see how it goes this year.
Jason, usually it takes a little bit of time if you're a stagnant offense, you just run pick and roll, and you got, two ball dominant guards. Usually it takes a little bit to change the course of action about how you play. How are they just moving the ball like this? Usually you fall back into old habits, and sometimes especially in crunch time, the ball sticks because you revert back to what you're doing. How are they just being able to just come in and just still keep the ball moving the entire game? That's really impressive to me.
You've got willing passers. You've got guys who are willing to give the ball up. And, I remember when I was covering the NBA every day, a lot of guys said the ball has energy. And when you pass it, you're confident you're going to get it back at the right times. And remember when we were talking throughout the summer in the offseason, we were talking about, do you have to break up the backcourt? Do you have to break up the front court? I always thought if you have to break something up, you have to break up the front court. I thought if the outside forces would allow it, Donovan and Darius can play together. They proved it 2 years ago. It was the injuries that Darius had last year, and he had a miserable year where this idea of having to break them up came about. But they've proved in the past that they could play together. I was more concerned with the front court than I was the back court.
Yeah, me too.
And even that has worked to this point. Again, it's very early. But Evan is playing exactly the way that they envisioned that he could play. He's got the ball in his hands. He's driving to the basket. He's being aggressive. He's doing all of those things. And Kenny mentioned something the other night, actually, that I wanted to follow up on with him tonight. He mentioned about Evan being more of a wing-type player, which that just sort of sent a flag up in my head because that's always been sort of the dream with him is if he's more of a wing, if he's a wing player and can do everything that he does, you're talking about a top 5 to 8 player in the league, like legitimately when he hits his prime, if everything comes together for him, and when you pull him out of the post and pull him to the wing. So, but the fact Kenny acknowledged like he's used him as a little bit more of a wing player, I want to follow up on that tonight.
Yeah.
But
it also makes Allen better because then you don't have to worry that he doesn't shoot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, I'm really glad you brought this. Is something I want to talk about on the Cavs show tomorrow. We might as well do it now. I've seen a ton of premise and people taking victory laps saying, well, the Cavs, we said last year they couldn't play with 2 bigs. Like, there's not enough spacing. The funny thing is, even though they didn't change the roster, they're not playing with 2 bigs anymore. They have utilized Evan Mobley in a wing position, and by taking him off the elbow, we talked about the numbers last week, they ran the second most elbow plays in the NBA, the second most elbow touches. When you have Mobley at the elbow, Jared Allen's not spacing the floor. There's just not enough spacing. By moving Evan Mobley around like a chess piece, and Kenny Atkinson's using him essentially like a queen on a chessboard. He can go anywhere, outside, inside, in the corners, be a screener, get screens set for him. You are now playing with Evan Mobley as essentially a supersized wing, and while he may not be the greatest shooter in the world, by having him attack from different areas and starting him further away from the basket and utilizing him offensively, relatively similar to how Milwaukee tries to utilize Giannis, using his strength, his length, and his ability to get by slower defenders. Despite not changing the actual five guys on the court, they've completely changed the geometry of how they're running their offense, and they're not playing with two non-shooting bigs right now. They're playing with a big wing, 3 guards, and a center.
But they're not. He's not shooting a million threes.
But doesn't have
So
to.
right, that's the thing.
Being
We kept talking about, well, he's either got to be a big man or he's got to shoot threes, but he's not doing either of those things. I mean, in a way, he's playing the wing where you traditionally would have a guy who could shoot, and even though he's not going to shoot that much from outside, from the 3-point line, it's working effectively. How much credit does Atkinson get for the growth of Mobley? I mean, do we think
A ton. Seriously, a ton.
I don't want to take away the credit from the player, though.
Well, sure, he's got to put in the work.
Yeah.
But the position he's putting him at, it was very smart, because when you look at Evan Mobley, we thought, okay, wing means shoot threes. But no, Evan Mobley came back, and what he did is he came back, and now he's able to, instead of take 2 dribbles and get to the rim, Evan Mobley is comfortable taking 5, 6 dribbles. Now, he's 2-3 dribbles away from the rim, and he could go up over guys and finish with the left hand or the right hand. And then you still have off the weak side, Jared Allen is crashing the boards, and you can see Jared Allen is still getting double-digit rebounds, and that's because the spacing is great. I will also give Jason credit for this one. You've been trying to get this off for 3 years, and finally he has paid dividends. The Vanilla Wolf himself, Dean Wade. The Vanilla
Mike
Wolf.
loves him too.
He just has to stay healthy. That's his biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because
The Vanilla Wolf.
The Vanilla Wolf is
It is
out
a great
here.
nickname.
He's out here, and he's bigger than people think. 6'9", 6'10", can shoot the open shot. I saw him on Anthony Davis. They switched off on Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis got the ball in the post. And Dean Wade wasn't giving nothing up. It wasn't like he was getting bullied. And think about that lineup now. We talked about before when we had Laurie Marketing, how that big lineup was very successful. You still got the big lineup. If you got Dean Wade playing there and Mobley can switch off on defenders, you got 2 elite rim protectors. Now, when you look at Dean Wade, he's a good plus-minus defender. He's not going to block a lot of shots, but you can switch a lot of this stuff, and you're not missing nothing. Now your 2 guards out front, even if they do get blown by, right? You still got 2 rim protectors, and the defense is able to rotate. So, to me, I was telling McNuggets, I said, man, I know they want to play Strus, but it's hard taking Dean Wade up out that lineup.
Would you keep Dean Wade in the starting lineup when Strus comes back?
I was actually going to go there. We might be blowing up all of Mike's content for our Cavs show.
I might as well not even do nothing now.
And again,
We talked about it last week. You can bring it up. I think we're in line with this.
well, I don't remember what I said last week. I love what they're doing so much right now. I think I'd leave it.
Yeah, you have
I
to,
mean,
right?
again, it's 7 games.
Sure.
2 weeks from now, this may look completely different. But
Yeah.
right now,
Yeah.
the way this is flowing, the way this is looking, the only trade-off by starting Dean, you have like no height coming off the bench. Like you don't have a ton of size unless you're going to play like Tristan or something like that. So that's the one downside to it. And Kenny talked about the other night that like they have sort of the big lineup and their spread lineup, and the spread lineup is all shooters with like Karras and Yang and
Merrill.
and Merrill. Merrill's been great.
Yeah.
And then the big lineup is the one they start with. But this has looked so good to this point. I don't know how you go away from it. I just.
You think he's going to? Not if they have a winning streak. You can't change the starting lineup if you're on a winning streak, I don't think. When's he going to be back, Strus?
It's a long time.
It's still a couple weeks. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
So they'll lose a game by
It's
then.
more than a couple. Like
Yeah.
they're going to reevaluate 6 weeks.
I mean, I don't know why you put-
maybe it's a month now.
If they're 15-2 by the time he comes back, I mean,
Yeah.
why the hell would you change the starting lineup?
I tend to agree.
It's not like he's an all-star player.
No, and the thing with Strus, too, as we mentioned with Mobley being more assertive and aggressive in the offense,
Yeah.
you can only run plays for so many people in a certain stretch, and Strus is a guy who you'd want to run stuff for because he gravitates and draws the defense's attention. Dean Wade does a lot of good things. You don't have to run plays for Dean.
Right.
And that gives more opportunities for Mobley, Darius, and Donovan to do what they do.
I'm just thinking out loud, guys, so if this is stupid, fine. I don't know enough about this. You guys tell me what you think. Would it make sense, like let's say this is going really well and we're in the end of January, and the Cavs are best team in the East, second best team in the East, whatever. They're playing great basketball. Dean Wade staying healthy. Would it make sense for the Cavs to consider, like Max Strus for a backup 4? Is that something that would make sense?
He makes so much money.
Yeah.
Maybe I think LeVert might make more sense in your scenario.
But isn't LeVert better than Strus?
Today. But LeVert, he has a 5-point deviation. He could be above his grade 5 or below his grade.
Yeah, you just don't know what you're.
You don't know.
All right, so Strus takes LeVert's role.
I hear what you're saying.
And then you trade LeVert for a backup big man. Is that something that they might do?
A lot of times in the NBA, it's rarely a buyer for buyer type trade.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know if you're a seller. I don't know that you want Karras or.
No, that's probably true.
Well, Karras is expiring, so Karras could be.
Expiring contracts aren't what they were.
Yeah, Strus is tough though. Strus because he has 3 years left or 2 years after this year.
He's got a lot of money.
Yeah.
Is it a bad contract?
No.
No, I would not knock him for that contract. When they signed him, he was exactly what they needed when they picked him up. I really like Wade in that role because he's better defensively. He's better on switches than people give him credit for, probably because he's the vanilla wolf.
Yep.
Good rebounder.
He is a good rebounder, a good sound 3-point shooter. Again, you're not asking him for 2016 Kevin Love. You're not asking for 20 and 12 every night. So I think he fills the role beautifully for what they need for him. It's just keeping this guy healthy for the playoffs.
Yeah, they got to keep his minutes down so that
They just got to keep him healthy in April, May, and June.
One last point on Dean Wade that I think gets overlooked a lot when we figure out how he kind of fits into this rotation. If you have your 2 bigs and Dean Wade as your front court, that's a really good rebounding front court. And that allows Darius and Donovan to kind of pass up some rebounding responsibilities and get in a better position to lead a fast break and get up the court and start running. And if you have Max Strus there, well, then it's more of a team rebounding effort, and that kind of slows the pace down a little bit. And with Kenny Atkinson, who wants to run, having a bigger 3 in there, and obviously they stagger the bigs. It's not always the 2 bigs together, but when you have that starting lineup in there together, that's really advantageous for Donovan and Darius to get out in transition, quick rebound, kick it up the court, and let those 2 run and make something happen that you don't get if Max Strus is in at the 3.
I think if you want to catch the Celtics starting 5, if they got Porzingis that comes back, I think the Celtics have an advantage when it talks about 1 through 5. But where you can catch the Celtics is the bench. If you can get Karras LeVert and you got a guy like Max Strus that come off the bench that is able to shoot it well, Sam Merrill, Isaac Okoro's a guy.
Celtics bench is good, G.
Well, listen, I like if you can get the Cavs bench to a point where you move Strus from a starting lineup role where he can knock down shots to get him off the bench, I think the Cavs bench could be better than the Celtics. Now, I would pick the Celtics starting lineup. I'm just trying to find areas where you match up that you can look
Last
at
year,
both of those.
The Celtics bench blew out every bench in the league. The Cavs bench could hang and go toe-to-toe, if not beat the Celtics bench, which is a giant step forward from where they were last year.
It's all a matter of who's healthy. It's so much predicated on health, obviously, in April, May, and June. But this has the potential to be. Remember back 2 years ago, the Knicks series, they couldn't go 7 deep.
No.
The Knicks
they didn't have 5.
The Knicks had 9 players before the Cavs had their
They've had injury problems both of the last 2 years.
And they just weren't very deep a couple years ago.
Right.
They have fixed that. That's one of the things, I've mentioned this a couple times, that's so fascinating to me in this new world NBA, the fact that they've got all of these guys locked up now as the cap goes up, and they are going to make moves. To your point about making, I believe that they're going to do something to get under. They're like $2.5 million over the tax line, so they have to shed some salary between now and February. I think Ty Jerome is an easy option. That's an easy one to dump, but we'll see. Like they're
played well though.
Yeah, I know, but you don't. If you're going to go over the tax, you don't want to go over the tax for $2 million. Like if you want to go to the tax, you want to really go into the tax.
Good point.
Yeah. So they've got decisions they got to make coming up, but they're They got it rolling right now. It's fun to watch.
It is.
We're going to come back and talk Cavs, more specifically preview tonight's game against Milwaukee as they look for an 8-0 start to the season, which would tie the franchise record in a little bit. But let's get back to the Browns here for 1 sec, guys. After a quick word from Hillsdale College, time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free. That's right, free online courses, including just a few here: Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution; Introduction of Free Market Economics, the Great American Story; A Land of Hope, the Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic; and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That is hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. We gave Jameis a ton of praise last week for throwing 3 touchdown passes in the win over the Baltimore Ravens. Yesterday against the Los Angeles Chargers, it was the opposite. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions in the loss. G. Bush, how would you evaluate Jameis's second start as the Cleveland Browns?
F or D, man, good. Whew. This was wild. Like he threw picks in all the ways that you can throw a pick, right? I'm gonna overthrow somebody, 1 pick. I'm gonna throw into double coverage, 2 picks. I'm gonna throw over the middle and the receiver does not know the rock is coming, 3 picks. It could have been 3, 4, or 5 more picks, right?
Yeah.
The most alarming part about this, and that's why I had the analogy of being sick and not knowing what's going on, is because 1 week, Jameis Winston looked like a franchise quarterback. He looked like he was a guy that was throwing with timing. And it wasn't just me. Bernie Kosar was glowing about him. You had Sean King that was saying, like, look at these dimes right here. Showing him, like, his anticipation, throwing the football. And then this week, he was just like Deshaun Watson. Like, not the interceptions, but the way he looked. Skittish in the pocket, didn't look like he was understanding what the coverage was, not getting to a second or third read, patting the ball, not on time, not on rhythm, and inaccurate when he was getting the ball some of the times as well, and not understanding where the pressure was coming from, all those different things. If you kind of just close your eyes and you was listening to it on the radio, his play looks just like DTR's. His play looks just like Deshaun Watson's, right? You just take the name off of it, and that's how he looked in that game. Now, I think also I had a problem a little bit with the way the running game was going, and most people will say, well, G. Bush, you couldn't run the game. If you can't run the ball, how are you going to run play action? And I respected it. The Chargers gave you light boxes a lot. It wasn't like there was 8 dudes up there. To me, I just don't like I don't like their run schemes, right? I think that's a big part. We don't really talk about it too much because who talks about run schemes? People talk about patterns and receivers going down the field, but the way that they choose to block guys up front is confusing to me. I don't know what they're doing. And so you don't got a running game. You're not getting the ball, and you're not making linebackers respect your run game. And they're just sitting back in regular zone coverage. And the most disappointing part about it is I know that they got a really good scoring defense, and they're a great defense with the Chargers. But we shouldn't be that confused on regular zone coverage. We look like receivers were moving in and out of the zones, not understanding where to sit down, not understanding where the ball is supposed to be going. Some of the route combinations, I just didn't understand. But in terms of Jameis Winston, you got to give him a D, F, because I mean he turned the ball over in the red zone, which is a no-no. So yeah, it looked all the way back up Minimowski style.
Jason.
He was bad. He was really bad. We talked about when he was really good 2 weeks ago. This is the full Jameis experience. This is what you get. He could look great 1 week. He could look awful the next. The reality is probably somewhere in the middle of what he really is. He's not going to throw 3 picks every week. He's not going to throw 3 touchdowns every week. We did, I think it was Friday, we did, can he get better? And I said, nope, that's it. Like what you saw last week is as good as it's going to get with him. And I still believe that to be true. I don't think he's generally as bad as what we saw yesterday. But I also don't understand the play call. I don't understand Like we can go back to 1 week, week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4, where it's like 1 week they're going to be a heavy team, run play action, and the next week they're going to jam this shotgun RPO down your throat, even though it doesn't work. And then they go back to being. It's like we talked about it at Jacksonville, I think it was, or New York maybe, that they have an identity crisis. They can't figure out who they are. And last week looked the way it's supposed to look in Kevin's offense, and it felt like some of the old school Kevin offense. And then yesterday again, it felt like it was the Ken Dorsey experience of shotgun and RPO.
Why? I was like, why are we? Why is he in 5 wide again?
I don't know. I don't know.
And we're just coming out. I'm like, this is not what we just saw.
And again, we've talked about it all year. These are receivers that struggle with speed, struggle to get down the field, struggle to create separation. But if you do it play to their strengths, you can still win with them. And we saw that last week. And then yesterday, it felt like it reverted back to what we saw earlier in the year. I don't want to oversimplify it, but I don't understand. To your point about the blocking schemes, they are totally different than the Callahan schemes of previous years. They are asking these guys to do things that they weren't doing previously. I don't know. Some days it looks okay, some days it doesn't.
Jameis Winston
I don't have a lot of answers.
There's other issues with the offense, obviously, yesterday, and you guys have mentioned some of them. We'll get to some of them later. But Jameis was terrible. I mean, he was absolutely awful. You can't play a much worse game.
Bless you.
Thank you. Than he did. 2 weeks ago, he played very well, and he got lucky on the mistakes he made. This week, he played terribly and didn't get lucky.
Correct.
You're right. He threw 3 picks. He easily could have thrown 5 or 6 in this game. I mean, he made some throws that were hideous. Last week, he threw with such a. I mean, like everything looked smooth last week.
And it was out fast.
Yes,
it was coming out
there was
fast.
so much patting the ball this week. I don't know. It was like
that film.
It was weird, and I don't think you just say, "Well, the Ravens' defense is no good." Yeah, the Ravens' defense isn't great, and yes, but like last week, this week the Ravens' defense played well. I think part of it, guys, is just the NFL. It sounds very simplistic. Is a week-to-week league, and Jameis is not the only quarterback that some weeks looks good, some weeks looks bad. We see this from a lot of the quarterbacks in this league. Not the great ones, the top guys look good almost every week. But there's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that 1 week they play really well, the next week they play terribly. The Saints just fired their head coach. The Browns play him after a bye next week. It wouldn't surprise me if Jameis doesn't get traded, and we'll talk about that later. But if he doesn't, and he's starting against the Saints in 2 weeks, it wouldn't surprise me if Jameis played great again against the Saints. And then the week after that, when they play the Steelers, he sucks again. Yeah. So, I think that's just what we're going to see with him, up and down.
I said last week that I don't think they've ever viewed him as this possible answer. They tried to trade him at the end of the training camp, at the end of the preseason. They tried promoting DTR above him. That was not supposed to be a 1 week thing. That was the direction they were going. I fully expect, whether Jameis is here or not, I fully expect Dorian to be the starter at some point here sooner than later. And we'll see. But I like no disrespect to Sean King, who knows more about quarterback play than I ever will. But I just know from the Browns side of it, I don't think they ever looked at him. They were never going to believe that he was going to be like, hey, look, we fell into a quarterback here in Jameis Winston.
Doesn't mean he couldn't have been. You're just saying
I'm
they don't believe.
I'm just saying from the Browns, and not like they haven't blown decisions in the past.
They don't know what the hell they're doing.
But I'm just saying from the Browns side of it, I don't think they ever looked at him as that's the guy that can be the answer.
And that's why the rest of the season is important, because you play yourself in a position or you play yourself out of one. You know, it was one game, and I was excited. I said, well, maybe it could be. But I always preface it by saying, you got to go out and do it. Like, this means nothing if you come out the next week and you look bad or you're terrible, and he looked like he looked right there. So, yeah, like, there's a lot of people on this team that they have to do evaluations on, and there's a lot of people that are going to play themselves in a position or out of a position, and that's why these games are important moving down the stretch, because you could do evaluations on them. For me, I just think when you look at Jameis Winston and you look at some of the things that they're trying to do offensively, it just doesn't fit with the personnel that they have. And the thing that is really evident is there are tugging and pulling conflicting ideologies. That's evident just by what you see on the field.
There's something off.
There's something
behind the scenes.
Because there was no reason that you would come back out and say that Jameis Winston. When is the last time you seen Jameis Winston pull the ball down and try to scramble? He did that multiple times because he was just visibly uncomfortable in the pocket. Like that first read ain't there. And by the way, Bull, the NFL does this all the time. When we talk about why does he look good one week and not the next week, well, the film is out. Them defensive coordinators went back to the tape and said, "Oh, you doing this well? Oh, well, we'll take that away this way, this way. So let's just run zone the majority of the game and make the look muddy and make him make the right play every single play."
Yeah.
And it's hard if you're going to drop back and throw the ball as much as they are to make the correct read every single time and to complete passes. It's just tough.
I know a decent amount of yardage, or was it that last play in garbage time? But Cedric Tillman was the only offensive player that I felt good about.
He looked good.
This game.
Yeah.
That's 3 in a row.
He's played well. I mean, that you could say it's garbage time all you want. They were still playing defense. That was a great catch in the end zone.
That was a phenomenal catch.
Yeah,
Very great.
I mean, I when they first showed us, no way his feet were in
We
bounds.
said the same thing.
Right?
He's out of bounds.
And the fact that he was able to put both toes on both feet.
The floor for him, it looks like it was going to be a viable NFL receiver. That's the floor.
Yeah.
He can help. He can help.
He
this
can
team
help our
win
team.
games.
Yeah.
And that's the floor. And now you build up from there.
But, like, is there anybody else besides Tillman you feel good about after yesterday?
On the offense or
Yeah.
in general?
Offense.
Offense?
No.
There's
Judy did
nobody
some
else for
decent
me.
things.
He was
Judy
the
did
only
some
guy I
decent
felt good
things.
about at the end of
Judy
the
was
game.
okay.
Judy's okay, but we already knew he was okay.
Yeah.
You know, like
He
he's
is what
not
he is.
breaking out from what he was.
Right.
Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
When you turn the TV on and you watch these other teams, they be having 3, 4, 5 dudes that just stand out. Boom! Hit you right in the face. There's a receiver. You see Malik Neighbors. Oh, there's one. Yeah, they got one. You see Jaden Daniels. Oh, wow! Look, this kid got some.
Yeah.
This kid got some burst. They got guys. The Browns. You got to squint real hard.
Yeah.
And think about it. Let me see. I saw something. I saw 2 glimpses of something here.
I'm telling you, Cedric Tillman's going to finish first in receiving yards.
He very well might.
He might.
All right, Mike, what do you got for
right
us?
now he's second, which is exactly like I told you would be the case.
Before
So-
we move on, and maybe this is a topic for another day, and if it is, just tell me to shut up, and we can talk about it later on. Can we all agree that firing AVP was an absolute disaster?
Oh, 100%.
Well, we're gonna talk about play calling in a sec in more
That's
depth. So
100%.
let's save that for when we get to that part.
They should
of
have
it.
given him a chance to call plays.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that, and that's probably a much deeper discussion for
Yeah.
a later day. But we are going to talk play calling in a sec. I want to talk about the secondary mishaps after a quick word from Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% direct bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. When we have Tyvis and Dustin this week, we'll talk about these defensive mishaps and miscommunications again. But, Jason, you were in the locker room yesterday, and I know Juan Thornhill mentioned he mixed up some signals. There were multiple occasions, too, in particular, where Denzel, Ward, and Thornhill were involved in some sort of busted coverage that led to a long Chargers touchdown. What do you make of it? That secondary is way too talented, and there's way too many veteran guys back there to be having coverage busts and coverage breakdowns, whether it be miscommunication, whether it be missed assignments, whatever it may be. What do you make of that? How do you put that into context, and how do you explain what happened on 2 crucial third downs yesterday?
There's no excuse for this to still be happening. They've switched out the defensive coordinator. We try to blame Joe Woods. They switched out the DC and pretty much the entire defensive staff. They've switched out the safeties. It was JJ3. Now it's Juan. The only constant in all this is Denzel. If we're being honest, the constant in all the coverage busts is usually on Denzel's side. And I remember one of them back in the day when it was Joe's defense and JJ was here. Denzel was just playing the wrong coverage. He's just in the wrong. I think he was cover 3 and the rest were cover 2.
That's what happened yesterday.
And that's exactly what it looked like happened yesterday. I was talking to Tyvis in the press box at halftime, And I mean, I don't want to speak for him. I'm sure he'll come on and explain it much better than I can. But he basically said the same. Not that he was blaming Denzel necessarily, but that he doesn't understand the way he puts it is this too cool for school. Why can't you just turn to the man next to you and tell him what you're playing? And
that's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard.
It really is. It really is.
That it's uncool to communicate?
Well, and so Denzel said multiple times, put it on me, this is my fault. Like, I'll wear this.
No, that's on the coaches too. That they're
well,
accepting this.
And this is what I want to know from Tyvis and Dustin, who've played in the secondary in the NFL. You don't really know exactly the call until you see the formation. Is it 3-by-1? You know what I mean? Are they going empty? Mm-hmm. So, yes, it's on the coaches, but it's on the dudes who are on the field.
Sure.
Once you see how they're lined up, to look at each other so that you know where the other guys are going. So it's on the players. And Juan said they didn't get the call around. And that's inexcusable.
It's ridiculous.
It's totally inexcusable.
And the reason I blame the coaches, and obviously I blame the players as well, is that this is because it's not new. If you're not coaching it, you're allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
Why are there no consequences for this constant screw up that happens?
I mean, I don't want to make light of this because we've talked about how serious the head injuries are with Denzel, but a couple of the press box were like,
yeah,
has he been should he have been cleared? Is he still having some foggy brain from the?
Yeah.
And he was even asked,
that's
fair.
fair.
He asked, is the concussion? Yeah. And he laughed. He's like, no, that had nothing to do with it.
Well, listen, man, it's getting to a point where you got to break it down and you got to say this don't happen in high school. That stuff don't happen.
That's what Tyvis said
at
yesterday.
A high school
he said,
level.
This is pee-wee level stuff.
This is the easiest fix in the world. They do it at every level. You know what they do? It's called echoing the coverage or echoing what the call is. If the linebacker comes up, and how they used to tell us when we used to have tests. Right? They would give us written tests before the game. And when you did the written test, you not only had to diagram what you were doing, you had to diagram everything. So as a defensive lineman, you diagram what the safeties, what the coverage is, what is the identifying role, strength, all that. If you did not pass this test, you didn't play. This is wild. This is in college, and this is at a MAC school.
Because this is what happens when you don't know.
If you don't, people are wide open. And then when you get on the field, it's foolproof. You know how? Because there's two safeties back there. Both safeties are tasked with knowing what the coverage is. One says it, the other one confirms it. If there is an issue where one person does not see it, one person can overrule the other person. No. This is boom, boom, boom. This is cover 3. This is sky. And then we echo it. We come to a consensus. That's why it's important to get the calls in early so that you can see the formation and you can understand. And if there's an issue, guess what you do? Timeout. And if we're confused, timeout. Up front, the green dot calls the play to the strength. All linebackers echo it. The defensive line echoes it. So now you get lined up, you can play fast, and you know what you're doing. If you can't line up and know what the formation is, you're dead. You might as well not play. And this happened twice. And the problem I have is they trot off the field, they look around, no one's saying too much. You just gave up 14 points in the National Football League. These games, Vegas, 3 points. Either way, you gave up 14. That was a game. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. It's too hard to come back from that. Bull.
And I actually thought the defensive line was playing very well.
Yes.
Now, obviously, Myles Garrett had a great game. We'll talk about him in a second. But across the board, I thought they were getting good pressure consistently. Dobbins, obviously, at the end of the game had the big run for the touchdown. But he hadn't really done much until the end, and the game was over at that point anyway.
Third downs. And this happened on 3rd and 20, 3rd and 14.
Yeah, they have two big first downs on that.
You've already done the hard part.
Yep. Just finish it off now.
Finish your breakfast. Finish your food, man.
Yeah.
Jason, I texted you guys. Diabate was wearing the green dot yesterday. First time wearing the green dot. I asked G on the postgame show. I'm not sure if you got any information from their locker room, but could that have been part of the miscommunication breakdown? I'm not blaming him whatsoever. I'm just asking, could that be part of the reason?
No, I didn't get over to him yesterday. I was trying to get a couple different things, so I didn't ask him. But it's a fair point that you brought up, and maybe it's something that we can explore this week during availability. When with JOK not in there, you asked me during the game who's wearing the green dot, and it was Diabate, and probably the first time he would have that responsibility, I would think.
Yeah.
And so maybe that would be, but again, G, can you
The backup's got to be prepared for that.
Yeah, but for the secondary, to me feels like it's a much different call because you don't know until you see the formation.
It is.
So is it really on the guy wearing the dot? Because this is on these dudes. Once they see how the offense is lined up, it's on these guys to communicate within themselves.
Exactly, because if 2x2, 3x1,
right? What
are you doing? All your assignments change based on what they're doing.
Yes.
So that wouldn't have anything to do with Diabate. At most, he's calling the strength of the formation and which way you want to put your Sam or your Will linebacker. Other than that, the safeties and the defensive backs have to be on one string.
Yeah,
they have. You have to, and the fact that you don't see these guys talking or listen, I would make, if I was Schwartz, I would make them. I don't care if it tipped off what my coverage was. I would make them. When you got that call, you have to confirm. Hey, this is Let them know we're in cover 3, because you can't. You cannot give up them type plays because that's the game. It's done.
And why does it have to give anything away? Couldn't you use code words like?
You could.
Whatever.
They can't even communicate cover 3. Now you want them to talk in code?
Yeah,
but the most damning.
It's not really complicated.
Look at this. The most damning part about it is though. See, they doing all this. They doing this.
Yep.
Handshakes.
Yep.
Gang signs.
Yep.
I got to tell you. And
you know how you have to memorize that. You got to do that before practice, after practice, during lunch, because everybody got a unique handshake. All of them. You telling me you could do that, but you can't turn around to the safety and say, yeah, we in cover 2.
That's a great point, G.
What?
Yes, they all have their own individual things.
That's a great
I
point.
can't take the celebrating when you get in your ass kicked.
I'm with you.
Greg Newsome dancing for one pass breakup when they're losing by 17 points. Give me a break.
It looks crazy.
It looks immature.
Yeah.
It really looks immature.
I know you guys want to celebrate, but you doing D lineman got the handshakes. The whole second backups got the handshakes.
If you're up 27-10, I'll come out and dance with you. But when you're down 27-10,
when you're celebrating, it feels to me when you celebrate when you're losing that it's all about me, not about the team.
Yeah,
that's how it comes off.
And look, I'm the flashiest dude in the world. I had sunglasses on right now and gold chains. But if I came in here and was like, I didn't watch no games, I didn't do anything, they'd be like, bro, you was up half the night working on your outfit and you did nothing today. You didn't even speak.
Fair.
It's a fair point, G.
Go ahead, Mike.
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the second hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show today. The second hour of UCSS brought to us by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers on FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if they win their first bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Jason, you brought up play calling a little while ago. We're just going to do a few minutes on this, then we'll move on to some of the trade deadline rumors and speculation. But, Bull, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Did you understand the game plan offensively for the Browns yesterday? They gave up on the run early. They went more 5 wide. They got away from a lot of the play action stuff. Did you understand?
I'm going to tie in Nick Chubb a little here, Mike.
Perfect, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
As part of what makes things so depressing right now when it comes to the Browns is that you had this little hope that Nick Chubb could save the day and fly in as Superman, and he's not Superman. This pains me to say it. I'm sure it pains every Browns fan, but let's be honest. Right now, he looks like just a guy.
Yeah.
And we've never, ever seen Nick Chubb look like just a guy. And I'm sure people will want to make excuses, offensive line, this and that. Be real about it right now. And nobody's blaming him. It's not due to lack of effort. But, G, you've talked about this. You have injuries. No matter how big, tough, strong, and hardworking you are, Nick Chubb in the end is a human being, just like the rest of us. And right now, Hopefully not the rest of his career, but right now, he looks like such a pedestrian player that he can't save this team. He's not capable of it at the moment. And that makes things even feel darker and sadder. And I don't know what the plan is offensively. I usually hate talking about play calling because I don't know how often Jameis Winston is getting a play, or Watson or whoever's playing quarterback, and is changing the call. So you never know what's being called. It did seem like they stopped trying to run too early. We've seen a lot of times over the years, teams, you break one and that kind of breaks the seal and you get going. I get it. They were not running with any effectiveness whatsoever, but I did think they still gave up on it too early. So, yes, the game plan for the Browns continues to be confusing. You would have thought, after, as you guys said, with the big personnel and the 3 tight ends, when they've gone heavy on that, the 2 games they've gone heavy on that, they've won. And especially when you're playing a team in the Chargers that obviously has had success against the pass, it would make sense to play that way. They didn't. I don't get it. I don't know what is happening with Stefanski and Dorsey. I don't know if there's an issue there. But between the game plan and Nick Chubb just being a guy right now, it's not fun.
Where I was sitting in the press box yesterday, I was just sitting next to a guy. I don't know what they do, but they have headphones on. They can hear what's going on in the field.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they do is they're constantly watching the play clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't watch the play clock that often, but I've got guys next to me going 5, 4, 3. And I got to tell you, and maybe I'm making too much of this, but it felt like they were getting to the line late yesterday on a few, and they didn't have to burn any timeouts. You didn't really notice. It's not like they were out of time and had to call timeouts.
But maybe it rushes things.
I don't know, but it just felt like I kept hearing 5, 4, 3 next to me a lot more than I did before. And again, just want to throw it out there. I don't know if I meant to ask in the post game, and again, I was chasing a couple of things and I didn't think of that because it really wasn't a big deal. They were able to get they didn't have to call any timeouts or anything. But we talked about the play calling earlier. It was very confusing to me. I tend to agree with the Nick Chubb thing. We talked last week. I felt like there was a couple runs where you saw it coming. And against the Ravens, I saw a couple runs where there's nothing there and he gets 4. Or he takes a 3-yard run into a 5-yard run. And that is vintage Nick. And then yesterday he's getting caught from behind before he even gets to the line of scrimmage. And it's like, oh, boy, we've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And it very well may be that it's just too much and the knee injury is just too devastating. And he's reached that age and with carries and with everything else that, the best of Nick is past us. But, I'll go back to what I said earlier. It was a total disaster firing Alex Van Pelt. It was the wrong choice. It was the wrong decision. You had a team that went to the playoffs with 5 different quarterbacks, 4 different quarterbacks if you want to throw out Driscoll, whatever. And it was an offense that was good enough. He was good during the week. Alex was very sound during the week on installation, concepts, getting these guys ready to go, and then Kevin called the plays on Sundays. And that's all gone. And I don't know what's in its place, but it's not working. It's not functional. And it doesn't even look like an NFL offense half the time. We saw it at great length with Deshaun where he wouldn't even throw the ball down the field. Everything was a check down with him. And Jameis, it looked good for 1 week, and it looked like a disaster yesterday. But, and as we get farther away from that moment when Alex was fired, I think we'll get more information on how this whole thing came together and what exactly happened. But I think it was a tipping point for this organization. It may sound silly firing the offensive coordinator, but some of the trickle down effect of what that led to in terms of other departures and changes, it was an absolute disaster for what has led to this season.
Was Van Pelt let go before Callahan went to Tennessee?
No.
Okay. Because you would think with Callahan.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
You wonder.
Alex was fired first, and then Bill left.
Now, we didn't know that. I can't think of Bill Callahan's son's name. He was with
Brian.
Brian, right. We'll never know the truth, but you wonder if. The feeling was that Jimmy Haslam forced the Alex Van Pelt situation. Who knows? But you wonder if they knew they were going to lose Bill Callahan, if they would not have made that change. Because
that's a good point.
Because those were your two most important assistant offensive coaches.
That's a great point. It's a spectacular point because here's the reason why both of them being let go hurt so much. Because Kevin Stefanski is a guy who was running the plays and calling, the plays and the head coach at the same time. Because he's taken that much of his bandwidth away by calling plays, coming up with the things like that. He delegated a lot of the run game. So you got Alex Van Pelt, right, who's coming up with some of these things. And then you got your run game coordinator and your offensive line coach in Callahan. That's tremendous because when you install plays during the week, you now are installing them from a position of power because your offensive line coach is the installation guy. So now when they're in individual period or team period, he's already on them. He already know everything. He on the steps. This is how you're supposed to look. This is what the goal of this is. This is what our thought process is when we run this. And so now when you're in your running game, it's all a ballet. Everything has to move in concert. When they teach you how to reach people on the zone plays or the stretch, everybody's hands in the same place. Everybody's taking the same steps. They put a board on the ground and say, listen, we need everybody to be on the board because we got a track that we're trying to run. And then a running back, he's married to that. So now everybody's moving the same way. Now the running back can either choose to keep it front side or cut it back. It all works beautifully when it's in sync. But when I was watching all 22, I was just confused because they were double teaming the first level of the offensive line, but they were never chipping off to the linebackers. And I said, maybe they got to a point where they said, we just need a little movement up front. So let's go ahead and double team, and then hopefully the running back can make the linebacker miss. But we watch these games, they weren't even getting to the next level. And them linebackers is like this. Oh, I'm downhill. Boom. These guys are running. The linebackers today is running like skill position guys. They're downhill, and they're making those tackles. So for me, that was a big glaring issue because I'm thinking like no offensive line coach would ever teach you to double team and then not get to the next level. That's where your yards are coming from is getting to the next level. So there's a disconnect in what they're doing. And when you change all of the rules and regulations of how you run the football, it's hard to then just on the fly say, okay, block this guy, you block this guy, because it's one-offs. There's no rules. There's no set things. And when you see Jed Wills stand up and turn around like this, that means guys don't really know their assignments.
And kind of following up on that, what makes the Browns running game really good in the past, obviously Nick. Mm-hmm. But they have two guards who are excellent at pulling.
Yes.
Two great pulling guards. They didn't pull hardly at all this year.
Good point. I never really thought about that.
Well, Wyatt was hurt.
Yeah.
And Zinter was in over his head. And then you got Michael Dunn in there. And, he's a capable lineman, but he's not the pulling guy that Bitonio and Wyatt are. And plus they had so many problems on the offensive line. You don't want to get exotic. You can't even block the man in front of you. You're not going to start. But against the Ravens, they were both pulling. You had Wyatt going. Joel was pulling more than I'd seen him in a while.
Ever. In a long time.
And it worked. I mean, Nick's numbers were what they were against the Ravens.
Yeah.
But the concept worked. The schemes worked.
Right.
And honestly, I didn't look to see yesterday. I didn't think of it until you just mentioned that. I don't know if they were pulling yesterday or not. But that was one of a staple of the Browns' running attack was their guards were so excellent at pulling, and they just haven't done it hardly at all this year up until the Ravens game.
I can't remember, Jason. I didn't get through the whole offensive. I usually watch the whole offensive side of the ball Monday mornings. I only got to the first half. I don't particularly remember any pulling plays. I could be wrong, but I don't remember in the top of my head.
And again, like you've actually got the same line 2 weeks in a row, which they've hardly had.
Yeah. And
Wyatt should be a little bit of the rust knocked off now. Now he's into week 2. You would think it'd be an opportunity for some more pull schemes with the guards.
Although DeJuan Jones got hurt again.
Yeah, shoulder.
Yeah.
Guy can't stay healthy.
It's tough.
Anyway, go
when
ahead.
you are that massive, injuries are that's a lot of weight on your joints. Now that was a shoulder, but I think knees and ankles are always going to be concerned with him.
My
just
knees and
of
ankles
size.
are fine, DeJuan. And I'm 30 years older than you, buddy.
Are they?
My knees and ankles, shockingly, yes.
We got to put you to a little stress test.
Let's put you across from Myles Garrett, and let's see how your knees and ankles do.
Pause.
I'd be dead if I was Myles Garrett. I'm 52 years old and I never played football.
You're the one saying your knees and ankles.
I didn't say about playing football.
He said today, and he's like, it's a little bit different, big dog.
Last time I played football, I was like 14. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, tomorrow is the NFL trade deadline, and we got a couple things to address in regards to that. Our NFL trade deadline topics brought to us today by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. Plus, Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you get your money back in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly just by playing $5. You don't even have to win to receive the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game when you want. Here's a clip from Mike Florio yesterday talking about some of the Browns' potential trade targets at the deadline. And this one name in particular is not someone we had mentioned previously. Here's Mike Florio on Sunday Night Countdown.
Yeah, there's an expectation the Browns will trade veteran pass rusher Zadarius Smith to the Lions before Tuesday's deadline. The Lions have been looking for help ever since the injury that was suffered a few weeks back by Aiden Hutchinson. Now, after the game, Coach Kevin Stefanski had no comment on the report, and Zadarius Smith left the locker room before he could talk to reporters. Now that the Browns have lost again, other veteran players could be available over the next 48 hours. One name to keep an eye on, tight end David Njoku. He could be available for the right price. We reported.
We'll talk about the other names in a sec, but let's focus on Njoku.
Well, there's only one other name there.
Well, but we'll talk about Zadarius and some other guys who get traded. Real quick, though, and David Njoku in particular. For the right price, would you guys be willing to listen to trade offers for David Njoku?
I absolutely would. See, David Njoku is one of those players. Now, we're going to have 62% of our fan base that are going to say, are you crazy? I wouldn't trade
You're
David
getting 62.
Njoku.
I'll put a poll up right now.
62% of the fan base. Here's the problem. I've said this once. I'll say it a million times. This goes back to all the Baker stuff, too. We have a fan base that has mostly seen what the kids call shit football. Mm-hmm. And so when you get solid play by a player, sometimes we overrate how valuable that is. David Njoku is a nice NFL player. Good, solid NFL player. Back end tight. Take 7. Top tight.
Take 8. You got to finish it now. Finish your breakfast.
Top 10 tight end.
There we
My
go.
God, what a tongue twister for me there. But he's not a special player. He's not an unreplaceable player. Like, when the Lions were having their last bad year before they got good, they traded T.J. Hawkinson, who at the time was probably a little better than David Njoku or kind of around where David Njoku is. Good tight end. And they were like, we can find another. Like, you trade the guys that you feel like you could find another guy like that. Now, it's easy to say, well, the Browns are not good at finding guys, and that's fair. They did find David Njoku. He's got a reasonable contract. Some team would I'm trying to think about the teams that need a good tight end. A lot of the good teams have tight ends. But maybe Houston, maybe the Chargers, maybe Washington. Who else? Who's Green Bay's tight end? Oh no, they got that Tucker Kraft kid. They like him.
Yeah.
There's not a lot. Again, there's not. Most of the good teams have a good tight end, but there might be a team willing to give up a pretty good prize for a tight end who's good, not great. But if he was like your fourth option or third option, and he's a good blocker, he could be a good player on a good team. I'm not giving him away for nothing because he signed through the year. But David Njoku, I'm not trading Myles Garrett unless I got absolutely blown away. And even then, I'd be hesitant because Myles Garrett's not a replaceable player or nearly impossible to replace. David Njoku's a nice player. I don't want to get rid of him. I'm not trading him for a 5th-round pick. I'm not interested in doing that. But if I got one team that's willing to overpay for David Njoku a little bit and give me a good return, hell yeah, I would trade him, 100%.
You know what's weird? I actually agree with that. And I'm more of a keep it together type thing. I don't know what the compensation. I don't want to trade him for a 4th-round pick or something. But to me, anything four and beyond, that's a crapshoot for me. I don't care nothing about no 4th round pick. You got to be talking 3 and above. Now, if somebody want to overpay and give me a 2, then we cooking.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting a 2.
See, but you're probably not going to get no 2 if somebody is super desperate, because it's not a position of impact. You're not going to get a tight end and be like, oh, we're automatically a championship caliber team. That doesn't. You grab them to bolster. You may get 5-6 plays out of them that could change the course of some games in the season. But yeah, where you're at right now, you're 2-7. David Njoku was a nice piece. He's been here for a multitude of years. He's never really broke out, never had 1,000 yards. Now, is that his fault? We've had a lot of quarterback play that's been up and down. But you have to ask yourself, if you keep him, is he going to be a main difference maker?
Right. Let me give you the trade that sent T.J. Hawkinson from the Lions to the Vikings 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And tell me if you would make this trade.
Okay.
Jason.
Now, real quick, it's worth noting,
Yeah.
Hawkinson was younger and hadn't had an extension yet. He signed the extension with Minnesota. He did not have a big contract.
Right. In this case, the extension is not a bad thing because it's
No. I'm not saying. I'm just giving the context.
Sure,
of the
fine.
trade.
This was the trade. The Vikings got Hawkinson, a 2023 4th-round pick, and a 2024 5th-round pick. The Lions got a 2023 2nd-round pick and a 2024 3rd-round pick.
Yep.
So it was Hawkinson, a 4th and a 5th for a 2nd and a 3rd.
Yep.
I would do that.
Yep. Would you do that?
Yeah.
100%.
Outside of Miles, there's nobody that I am clinging to and saying.
I wouldn't trade Chubb just because you're not getting anything.
You're not going to
for
get
him.
anything for him.
Nobody. I don't even think he's going to be traded.
No, he has no.
I
value
would
right
consider anybody else besides Myles Garrett.
Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
And I know we weren't supposed to say this. I'd actually consider Denzel Ward.
Oh, 100%.
I'd consider it.
Sure.
I wouldn't trade JOK either. It's another guy I wouldn't trade.
Denzel
Yeah.
Ward.
Yeah.
Somebody on a when healthy, Denzel Ward is a top flight corner, right? But he misses a lot of games.
Yeah.
There's some issues with the bust.
I don't know. I don't know that he's tradable right now.
Is he going to come? If a team now he plays an impact position.
Yeah.
If you want to put him man to man out there and he don't got to tackle nobody, he's elite when it comes to that.
Would you trade him within the division? Would you trade him to Baltimore or Cincinnati?
Man, I'm not.
You have to overpay.
You
make them. You have a division tax.
Yeah, we're not gonna Joe Hayden this thing up. Like we're not gonna do that. Like put him in Baltimore. Come on, man. I don't want to see you no more. I would like to send you to the NFC West.
Right.
Like, but he would be a guy because I think somebody would overpay for him.
Potentially. Yeah.
Getting back to Njoku's he's 28.
Yeah.
He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's not over the hill by any means, but it's fair to wonder if his best football is behind him instead of ahead of him. I know he had a phenomenal year last year.
But if you paired him up with a really good quarterback.
So I'm going to give you a team that I think should be all over him, and you're going to think I'm nuts.
I mentioned a couple. You say the Chiefs, so they go with 2 tight ends.
No.
Go ahead.
The 49ers with 2 tight ends. To replace Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, that's not crazy.
Njoku can line up in the slot.
You're right.
Ooh.
If I'm the 49ers, I am all over that. Because, again, David Njoku thrived last year. It was his best season in the offense that Kevin Stefanski for 4 years has been trying to run in San Francisco. He's been trying to mimic this offense after Kyle Shanahan's offense in San Francisco. If I'm the 49ers and I watch what I put on the film of last year and see what Njoku did with Flacco throwing to him last year, and I've got Brock Purdy, I call the Browns right now and say, what do you want for Njoku?
I like it.
I think it would be – and the mismatches you can create – with him and Kittle on the field at the same time. Kittle's got such a long injury history, you never know if you can count on him. Is he going to be around in December and January? That would be, if there's a perfect landing spot for David Njoku, in my mind, the team that makes the most sense for him is actually the 49ers.
And they are both willing blockers.
Yeah. I think it would
run a lot.
Good blockers.
It would transform that offense if they got him.
I think Washington makes sense, too. They got Zach Ertz, but he's kind of old.
I mean, Baltimore does really, but I don't think you're going to trade
But they
him
already
in the
got
division.
They already got 2 tight ends.
Yeah, but Andrews is old.
Yeah, but they got Likely. They like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's a young tight end.
When Hawkinson got traded, he was 25, by the way.
Yeah.
He's 27 now. He's actually younger than Njoku, which I thought he was older than Njoku.
Right.
But so I'm not sure you get the second back, but I think a third for the right team could be possible.
I'd trade him for a third. I mean,
If I'm San Francisco, I would trade a third to get him.
yeah, I mean, that's like the 100th pick in the draft.
I mean, and it's one of those like
But for the Browns, like,
It's
the
a move
100th pick in the draft could be a really good player.
it should be if you get it right.
Yeah.
But for a team like the Niners, that's a move on the margins that no one would pay a lot of attention to if it comes down right before the deadline.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in December, when you're playing them, or January,
Yeah.
and you're playing them in an NFC Championship, you're like, oh my God.
I don't think it's a bad idea for the Chiefs, too.
Yeah. Yeah, same sort of
You know,
same concept.
They need weapons.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other guys who could be
Yeah.
dealt tomorrow. This next topic brought to you guys by Hillsdale College: History, Economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably not, but even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed the basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, introduction to free market economics, the Great American Story, A Land of Hope, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever, wherever, and tune in when you want. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockdown to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That is hillsdale.edu/lockdown to register. hillsdale.edu/lockdown.com. There's a couple other names: Adarius, Greg Newsome,
Well,
Dalvin
Adarius
Tomlinson.
is gone. We know
assume.
that. The players basically said it in the locker room after the game yesterday. They knew, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was funny. We were standing behind Z, and he was getting dressed. He put his jacket on, and that's like the signal for the meet. And he like somehow, this is how good of a pass rusher he is. He somehow like backed up and went this way, and missed the entire.
What I don't get though is if you're Darius Smith, wouldn't you be excited to get traded to the Lions?
Yeah, I just think what's he supposed to say?
Right.
That's why
he can't say it's
most
done.
most
or,
guys.
Yeah, fair enough.
Most guys get dinged if they leave, if they run out and leave without turning
but
around
you
and
gotta
talking.
yeah.
In this instance, I don't know what the guy's supposed to say. I
Yeah.
think he'd welcome a trade. I think he loves the idea of a trade.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to necessarily say that probably in the losing locker room.
Sure.
So he managed to find an escape route that.
Didn't Greg Newsome say he was traded or something like that?
He didn't say. He said, "Thanks to Darius. I'll be friends with him for a long time after football."
But he was
we'll stay
talking
in
as
touch.
if he's gone.
They all were. They all were.
They all.
You saw him on the sideline a little bit.
Yeah.
I was surprised they played him.
Yeah.
I was too, especially when Mike Florio put out the tweet that a trade's expected to happen, in his words, today or tomorrow on Sunday, when they were losing 20-3 in the second quarter. Tomorrow we're going to go through player by player, who stays, who goes. But big picture, what's the best case scenario for the Browns by the end of tomorrow's deadline? Is it a full fire sale? Is it pick and choose? Big picture, what's their best
Does
course
any
of
team
action?
ever really do a fire sale during the season?
No,
Not in the NFL.
Not in the NFL. Well, listen, whatever they can get the highest. If they can get a number 2 pick, a second round pick somewhere for somebody that is not named Nick Chubb or Myles Garrett, clap it up. But I don't think they'll get that. That's best case scenario. I think there's a couple other people that you can maybe get 3s and 4s for. We'll probably talk about those guys tomorrow. But the reality is, I think it's good for the Browns to signal this. Hey, this didn't work this year. The best thing that you could do at this point is you need to start pushing hope. Sometimes you need to start pushing like change and to cleanse your palate, because the more you try to put putty and try to change up and sand these walls down, sometimes you need to just knock that wall down. You need to get rid of it. And I think the quicker that you do that is the better that happens. And I'm sitting here thinking, as I'm saying this in real time, it's go put DTR in and just see what happened, man. See what happened, because you need to start getting draft capital that people can get excited about. And because if they can't get a top flight quarterback or a top 10 pick, they're going to need to have some stuff that they can move up to trade up to get some pieces and parts.
Jason, will the Browns trade away 1 player, 2 to 4, or 5 or more?
2 to 4.
2 to 4.
And
Okay.
2 to 4 is 2.
Ah, okay.
So
What's your prediction? I know Zadarius and who?
Zadarius. I think Greg could go.
Could
Greg Newsome could go.
I mean, there's a lot of guys. Njoku, we just talked about.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tomlinson.
I would trade Dalvin in a second.
Oh, my God.
He's got a lot of
100%.
money. He's got a lot of money left.
Yeah.
there.
He just had his best game, though. I mean, if you're going to audition for another team.
Well, I talked about
really well.
that on Friday during the Channel 3 show. Like, hey guys, you got one more chance. I thought the defense would play well because this is your audition. Whatever you put on tape is the most recent in these GM's minds going into Tuesday. But he's got a lot of money left. There's some injury concerns with him. I don't know that they'll get much of anything for him. If you could come out of this with a top 100 pick and a top 130 pick, so 2 picks in the top 130 or so, I think that's a win. I think you take that and you run with it. I have. What do you think the market is for Z? What do you think?
4th.
Florio said 5th or 6th.
Oh.
Who has any, like, no one has any idea if that's real or
Yeah,
not.
I don't know.
Florio suggested 5th or 6th.
I'd be jumping up and down for the 4th because what they use, they spend a 5th to get him, right?
Yeah, you're probably not getting a top 100.
No.
In any sort of trade, but I would look at, for sure. I would look at Newsome.
Yeah.
I told you last week I'd trade Jameis coming off the 300-yard
Wyatt
game. I
Teller
would
could be
him.
traded.
Could be, but he's got a lot
Elijah
of money.
Moore could be traded. I mean, you're not getting much in return.
You're not getting much, but again, anyone who's not under contract beyond this year should be on the table, because
Right. What's the point of
what's
keeping
the point?
them? Yeah.
And even guys with just 1 year left into next year,
Yeah.
I would strongly look at as well.
That's crazy. And Jed Wills has no value.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That's a guy for sure I would look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A team will take him as a backup.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's another 5th-round pick, probably.
Yeah,
Or
a
maybe
reclamation. They'll look. Hey, former top 10 pick. Yeah, they got to start. They got to rebuild. They got to tear this down. They got to tear it down. It ain't nothing much here. Ain't nothing. And by the way, I keep looking at these positions, and we like, oh, this is the deepest group in the. They still ain't got no linebackers. They still don't. Like,
Well, I mean, JOK was hurt.
JOK,
yesterday.
right?
What are you gonna do?
But that just goes to show you when you take certain people off the field, you find out what your depth is when that person ain't on the field.
That's true.
Like, all right, well, let me see you make a play. Diabate just ran around the block and just gave up a touchdown. He tried to backdoor a block. I said, bro, that's your gap. Your gap is the one the running back hit his head on the goalpost, man. Like,
I'll tell you who could get you a little bit of a decent return is the punter.
oh, he's
Bjorkes
nice.
is playing outrageous
He's
right
nice.
He's one of the
He's
best in the
nice.
league right now. So
He's nice.
There's got to be a team with a bad punter. How about Denzel Ward? What's his name? Dalvin Tomlinson and the punter to the Bengals for a 1st-round pick. You doing it?
You said what?
Ward, Tomlinson, and the punter for a 1st-round pick for the Bengals.
Of course.
If you're getting a 1st, you have to do it.
Well, you trade 3 guys though.
Trading the punter, a guy who, as good as Ward is,
Come on.
you can't count on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you mean? Like, yeah.
Another thing you have to factor into these trades is the dead cap hits.
Yes,
And
that's
I
a
don't-
big thing. And he got a lot of money.
And we don't need to get buried in salary cap minutia, but they've got enough dead bodies laying around here in the years ahead
Yeah.
with dead
Now,
cap hits coming.
you said before the cap will become a reality.
Yeah.
And the reality is that it only becomes a reality
when you screw up,
and if it could still not be a reality if Jimmy is continuing to is still okay with spending at ridiculous dollars. If there's no limit in theory to what he's willing to spend, then it won't matter ever in theory. Now, there's probably a limit to what he's willing to spend.
well, the problem is going to
Yeah.
come with Deshaun. That's where the problem lies. You have $170 million
Right.
that has to count against your cap in the years ahead. So are you going to keep him?
Yep.
And keep restructuring it year after year after year
No,
after year?
I think you
Or
got
if you cut ties with him, now you've got to eat $170 million.
He's got to be here at least 2 years. He's on the roster.
Well, at least one more year after this, minimum.
I think the dead cap hit is like $100 million or something.
I would keep him on the roster and tell him not come to the team.
Well, I said that
Yeah.
after the Washington game, I think. I'd send him home, pay him
Yeah.
his money and send him home.
Yeah.
But the most realistic I'm sure there's 100 different ways to do this. The most realistic one that I've seen to this point is if you want him off the roster.
Yeah.
You designate him a June 1 cap cut. You restructure it one more time. You designate him a June 1 cap cut.
Yeah.
and a post June 1, and then I think the cap hits were $83 million next year and $89 million
And then you
in 26.
and you got to live with that.
And then you're done with it. Now, again, there's other ways to do it, but if you want him off the roster,
the idea of giving a team a first round pick to take him,
No.
that doesn't
you
make
can't
any
do
sense.
that.
No,
You
we
can't do that.
need we got to rebuild.
No.
And so
No, but I just brought it up because people have suggested it.
So maybe
it's a terrible idea.
Maybe you carry him for one more year, and then you have to keep restructuring it. Maybe you carry him for one more year and then cut him. In
My
year
head's
5.
hurting.
Oh, my
I know.
God.
That's why I didn't want to go down the cap minutia road.
Go ahead, Mike. This is,
At 12:40, we're going to go back to the Cavs, preview the game against the Bucks. I do want to give just 2 minutes on Myles Garrett because he played out of his world. And this Myles Garrett topic is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. You don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get rates and perks usually reserved for high society. Now the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply for product-specific disclosures. Visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may apply. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC.
Myles Garrett, 3 sacks yesterday. Browns had 6 as a team. He played great. I thought the D-line was the only unit besides the punter that played well yesterday. I thought the D-line I thought Ogbo played well. I thought Tomlinson played well. But Myles Garrett was sensational.
Mike, do you have? I should have said this before the show. Do you have the footage of his first sack?
We
Is there a
cannot show
tweet?
it on YouTube.
Not even as someone tweets it.
No, unfortunately. We've
Go
been
back and
flagged.
find it. Watch it.
you got flagged.
The man was in a chokehold. It was not a penalty. It was assault. I think it was Rashawn Slater, I think, was the tackle, who had Myles around, literally around the neck in a chokehold. And Myles still got to the quarterback. And there was no flag. Like, we talk about him getting beat up and whatever and holds that don't get called. But I happen to have the binoculars on him. I watched the sideline a lot, and I was watching Myles a lot yesterday. And I happen to have the binoculars on him on that play. And literally, he was in a chokehold for a second and a half, and he still got to the quarterback.
It's so funny because usually
I just watched it, and you are right.
Yeah.
When fans whine about lack of penalties, in general, I ignore those because fans are homers. But it is true on some level when it comes to Myles Garrett. In a way, he gets the same treatment Shaq used to get in the NBA, right?
It's the Shaq and LeBron
It's like
from the
I
NBA.
can't call a foul every time.
And and that's why teams do it, because they know they're not going to get it called every time.
Yeah.
So just assault him, beat him up,
Yeah.
lay on him, whatever it takes, and then if you get the penalty, then so be it. But you're going to get away with it more
Right.
times than
Okay,
not.
we just had a record-breaking October. Steve, I'm going to play 10 seconds of footage. If we get in trouble, I apologize.
Okay.
But these are the 3 sacks from Myles Garrett. Steve, take tag with full play at once and then drop it as quickly as possible.
Is this the first one?
No, this is not the first one. The next play is the first one.
That's incredible.
This is the chokehold.
I mean, he's in a chokehold. He's in a chokehold.
And then the last one against Joe Alt, the rookie, just beats him. Power. Drop it,
I mean,
Steve. That never happened. That never happened.
What are you talking about?
Great. Myles Garrett being incredible.
Hey,
I'm sure there are better angles, if you can find it, from where the man had his arm around
That
him.
last one, I mean, he just destroyed that guy.
Just bull rush.
he's like, man, he might be one of the most gifted pass rushers of all time. It's like, I like Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor can't. That ain't that. Like that. This
That
man
was a different sport at the time.
This man, Lawrence Taylor, was out here the same size as Jason Lloyd. Lawrence Taylor.
Don't
same
insult
weight.
that man like
same
that.
weight. No, don't disrespect. Like
I mean, Lawrence Taylor was a killer.
I mean, Lawrence Taylor was.
I don't know that Myles Garrett
no,
was
no
that type of killer.
But the way that Myles Garrett can bend, the way that he has explosiveness, the amount of torque and pressure he is able to exert on his limbs without tearing ligaments and just the bend, the running the hoops. This man is about 280 pounds, and he's running around like that. It's you can't block him.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to say he's the greatest defensive lineman of all time because I don't believe he's the greatest defensive lineman of all time. He's the greatest athlete to play defensive line ever, I think.
He has the best skill set that I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he's phenomenal.
Now,
and to some degree, he's been wasted because they've never put. Well, I mean, yeah, he's been wasted. He's getting the full Joe Thomas treatment. He says he doesn't want to be traded. Jason, do you believe that? I know he's not going to get traded in season. Do you think he wants to be traded at the end of the season? You think he'd want to?
I don't know.
I used to think it's up in the air. I used to think that if they were as bad as they were, because there was times in rumbling when they weren't good and they were supposed to be.
Right.
Myles Garrett would be ticked off. Like, we're gonna have to figure something out. But now he's getting to this point where I haven't heard anything, and he's to a point. It's kind of scary because when you stop being ticked off, you almost resign to your fate. It's like, I'm gonna just play this out. And I've always said it, Myles Garrett is not going to be one of these dudes. Now, I know this for a fact. He ain't going to be one of them dudes. He's on the LeBron James. When he feels like he's not effective and he don't want to go through practice and go through the motions of getting his body ready, he's done. He'll go do something else, like, be a paleontologist
Joe Thomas
or
could have
something.
played longer, too.
Yeah, Joe Thomas could have played, but they're not going to even going to do that. So my thing is, I'm a little scared about it because as painful as it is talking about rebuilds, think about that for him. Like,
will Myles Garrett still be in the NFL when the Browns have their new stadium?
Yes, 100%.
Wait,
absolutely.
How old
That's
is
5 years from now.
How old is Myles Garrett?
G's saying he thinks he's going to not play till an old age.
Well, if they keep taking
how
L's
old is
like
Myles
this,
Garrett?
He's in his 8th year, I think.
28, right?
How would we know? We're asking you.
You're the stat guy.
So pull it together over there.
He's 28. He turns 29 in December.
So he's 29, essentially.
So he would have to play till he's 34.
Well, here's the thing. I was just looking it up.
Yeah.
He's almost halfway to Bruce Smith's record. So if he wants Bruce Smith's record, he's got to hang around another 8 to 9 years. I have no idea if he'll do that or not. But Bruce had 200 career sacks. Myles is at 95 and a half.
It's an unfair stat because they didn't keep it back in the day.
Well, I mean, you would think he's got a decent chance of getting it to him because they throw it so much more now than they did 20, 30 years ago.
But I feel like as he gets older, there's no way he's having like 16 sack seasons at age 30.
Bruce played. I just looked it up. Bruce played 18 years, I think, 18 or 19 years.
He was so good.
And Myles is at almost by the end of this year. Certainly, he would be. You would think he would be. He's got another 4.5 sacks.
In your mind, do you think of Myles Garrett as better than Bruce Smith?
Yes.
Bruce I was a kid when Bruce played. I'd have to go back and look.
But Bruce Smith, so when I say this, it's skill set wise. There's never been that stuff he does is freakish.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying, like, was he a better football player than Bruce Smith? I don't know.
Okay, so I've always felt like Reggie White was better than Bruce Smith.
He is.
I would take Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor over Myles Garrett.
I think Reggie White was the greatest defensive end ever played the game.
Reggie White's 300 pounds, quick as a cat.
Yeah.
Played a run just like he played a pass.
I thought, to me, Lawrence Taylor was the best pass rusher I've ever seen, and then Reggie White. They played different positions.
Derek Thomas was really good.
Derek Thomas
was really good.
Yeah.
The fact that Myles Garrett's even in a conversation with those guys
It's a testament.
is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We started the show with the Cavs. And let's end the show with the Cavs, guys. They are in pursuit
Thank you.
of an 8-0 start.
Mike, give me 15 seconds to talk about the Guardians before we get to the Cavs.
Sure.
Congratulations to Andres Jimenez and Stephen Kwan, who won Gold Gloves this year. Stephen Kwan became, I believe, just the third player in the history of baseball to win a Gold Glove for a third straight season to start his career. One of the other guys is Ichiro, who was not a true, I mean, he was a rookie, but he was a little older. I don't remember who the other one was, but I believe he's only the third guy ever. So kudos to both of those guys for winning Gold Gloves.
Yeah.
That's my 15 seconds on the Guardians. Back to the Cavs.
You crushed it. No, congratulations to both those two. The Cavaliers have a chance to tie a franchise record tonight. If they beat the Milwaukee Bucks, they will start the season 8-0, which is the best start the Cavs have ever had. It is the second game of a home-and-home against the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis is questionable with the strained abductor injury.
Play, right?
Excuse me. Jason will be there. I'll be there. Bo, will you be tuned in to tonight's
I want
matchup?
to go to the game.
Come. The Rock's been electric.
They'll give me a credential. I actually have to go for pregame. I have to come here to shoot the 7 o'clock news, and then go back for the rest of the game. So I'll miss probably the first quarter.
I'll be at the crib watching, of course.
Yeah.
I'll be at the
Yeah, I'm going to watch. Even if Giannis doesn't play, which I want him to play because I like when the other teams have their best players. But I'm still going to watch because, as I said earlier, there's something buzzy about about a winning streak to start the season. There's something. Again, if the Cavs were 6-1 heading into tonight's game, still great. It doesn't feel as exciting. When you start the season and you haven't lost, there's something extra exciting about that, to me at least.
What was Giannis? Would you say adductor?
Strained abductor.
I'm guessing he does not play.
No, why would you play him?
That's a groin injury.
Yeah.
And you don't mess with those or you could be out weeks.
Giannis, man, I think he's starting to break down.
How old is Giannis? He's had a lot of injuries.
He was in the 20.
He's 29. He turns 30 next month.
So he's 30, essentially.
But when did he start in the NBA? Did he come in when he was like 19?
He was the 2013 draft?
I
14?
believe 2014.
14, yeah, Anthony Bennett, the Bennett draft.
Yeah, 14.
Anthony Bennett.
Right.
Oh, my God. Lima loved him. Speaking of which, let me give a shout-out real quick. Got to do another shout-out.
Peterlin?
Yeah, I knew about this, but he asked me not to say anything until it got public. But congratulations to my friend Jonathan Peterlin, who is the new afternoon drive host on The Fan.
I missed that. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I just
he
saw
texted
him on
me over the weekend.
I saw him on Saturday. Maybe he didn't know about on Saturday. Did he know on Saturday?
He did, but he was told he didn't want to get in trouble. He didn't want to say anything.
He thought I was going to say.
When did they announce it?
They just announced it
Like,
today.
within the last
it's going to
hour
be
they
Nick and
announced it.
Jonathan doing afternoon
Shout out!
drive.
Shout
I
out!
didn't know.
Good for him. He's worked hard. He did a really good job. Got good ratings on his night show. He's a great guy, so I wish him the best. And Nick and Jonathan, I told this to Jonathan already. If you guys are watching at some point here, time to get rid of 5 at 5. That was our thing. You guys got to do your own fresh thing here. Let's go.
The 3 at 3.
3 at 3, whatever you want to do.
Back to the Cavs real quick. In a rematch, 2 days after. I know it's very early in the season.
Yeah.
This is a game the Bucks. I was just looking at the standings. If you were doing NFL style, like worst place gets the first pick, second worst has the second pick, the Bucks are the second pick in the draft. And it's early. There's a lot of basketball to play, but they can't keep affording to just fall lower and lower and lower in the basement. You saw Dame put up 41 on Saturday, and he came out guns blazing early. I'm not sure if they don't have Giannis, if Dame can carry an offense like he once could.
Who's their next
Just
best
2 days
offensive player?
Chris Middleton, who doesn't
But he's
play at
not
all.
playing. But Brook Lopez
What has
is.
happened? When's the last time he played?
Chris Middleton, he hasn't been healthy since the 22 or 21 playoffs.
He's
I
a
forget
really
which
good
year it
player.
was.
Yeah, it's the way it comes at you quick.
Anyway, they got Brook Lopez.
Did I see the Cavs are favored by 7 tonight?
And
7
that
and a
was,
half.
yeah, that
After
seven,
they were an underdog on the road
that-
Saturday.
that's being on the road and second out of the back-to-back.
True. Is it? Are they a 7-point favorite?
They are a 7-point favorite. Wow. And I
So
bet
that's
you that,
assuming Giannis is not
I
gonna
bet
play.
you that goes up. I had 7.5 this morning. I bet you now as we get closer, and I'm going to guess Giannis, even though he's a freak of nature, if any guy
Why
can
would you
play
play
through
him?
I wouldn't, but I'm just saying if he decides to play.
Why would you play him? Because you're 1-5.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter ultimately.
But you saw how hard they played the other night.
They played hard.
You can.
I know, but if he's hurt, why
Yeah,
you
I
don't
know.
risk it?
There's a difference, and we don't care about the regular season. And 1-6.
I hear you, but if Giannis gets hurt, then he misses 30 games.
Then
they're finished.
Then you out of here.
Grunge are no joke. If you screw around with that, it'll cost you a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I don't think he plays. But you asked why would he play? That's why.
Yeah, I hear you, man. When I tore my Achilles, it was less than a year after I moved to Cleveland. I was in my house that I was living at the time. We had stairs, and I finally decided to go down the stairs with my crutches. And I actually fell, and I pulled my groin badly. That was a low point for me. I pulled my groin, and still to this day, every once in a while, I feel it. All these years later.
You think they cover? 7.5.
Yes, I got the cat. Yeah, because I'm assuming Giannis is not going to play.
Jason, do they cover 7.5?
No, I think they win, but I don't think they cover. I think they win. I don't think they cover.
Okay.
G. Bush?
I think they'll cover. I think what sets this Cavs team apart is they look like they focused. Like, they locked in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, because they got people with stuff to prove. I think Garland is playing back with a new passion. Evan Mobley is liking a newfound offense where he's touching the ball more, and Donovan Mitchell, for lack of better terms, I think really helped them was the fact that they actually like each other, and all of them we killed them last year. There was Donovan Mitchell, he missed the playoffs. Darius Garland got it all season. Evan Mobley, we talked about him and his skill set.
Jared Allen,
Jared Allen,
questioning his toughness.
Yeah, and I think Donovan Mitchell, I think he showed a lot of character because he actually stood up for them dudes. He really was like, no, Jared Allen, he wanted to play. I'm sticking up for him, and if I'm here, Jared Allen is one of my better friends. He always is sticking up for Darius Garland. He's always trying to build him up and different things like that. So I think the fact that they are a close-knit group, plus you got Allen and Karis LeVert who played for Atkinson before, I think they just playing good ball where they're not really thinking about it. They just going out there and having fun and letting it go.
For whatever it's worth, it is a likable team.
Very.
I know that doesn't really mean anything, but
No, I think it does. I think it does mean something. And one thing we overlooked, and boy, you know how you mentioned earlier, you wanted to apologize to people for not picking up on the Browns probably being a little fluky after that Ravens win. One thing I think we all missed as a collective group is when you just change the coach and he's bringing in a new offensive or defensive system. In this case, it's both, but we'll focus on the offense. The players are just learning a new system, but they already know each other's tendencies.
Sure.
And it's not learning two things and trying to incorporate two things at once. You already have that second half of it. Your chemistry with certain guys, you know where certain guys like to play off of, where they like to catch the ball, what they can, what they can't do. Now you're just fitting it into a new system as opposed to learning both at once. And that's, I think, part of the reason why it's clicked so quickly.
And also, it helps that two of your top, 6 players, 7 players, whatever, played for the coach before, right?
Yeah, I think it's a little different offense than they ran back in Brooklyn.
No.
They have some
but they have a
familiarity with it.
relationship with the
Yeah,
coach.
right. Absolutely.
And so there's going to be some buy-in because Jared Allen and LeVert are like, this guy's the real deal. He's a good coach.
They trust him. If your coach is telling you, I need you to be over here, and this is the reason why. If it's a new coach and y'all don't know him, you're like, come on, bro, I don't even know if that's gonna work.
Yeah,
but
especially because he didn't play in the NBA, I don't think, right? Kenny Atkinson.
No, he played. No, he didn't play in the NBA. He played professional,
played ball
all over the world, but not in the
overseas.
NBA. Yeah.
But I think a coach that didn't play in the NBA, it takes more to get the buy-in from those guys, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
So the fact that, I know he's been a head coach before and he did well. Clearly he has a good relationship with at least Jared Allen, and it seems like he has a good relationship with LeVert. And those guys trust each other, so they trust this coach. And I'm just speculating, but I'm assuming, I think it's a reasonable assumption, that they bought into Kenny Atkinson even more, maybe they would have anyway, because those guys already knew he was legit.
Yeah, there's some familiarity there, for sure.
And I love the fact
And
that
Donovan signed off on him, too. That was part of the reason.
Donovan seems like a lot of superstars, and I'm sure Donovan is a big ego. I say this all the time. Like in any type of entertainment industry, you have to have a decent-sized ego. We all do, no doubt, like to different degrees, but we all do. Like Donovan, though, as far as like top 20, 25 players go, and correct me if I'm wrong, obviously Jason and Mike, you guys have spent more time with Donovan, or no players more than I do, certainly. He seems like less diva than the typical star player. Is that fair or is that not true?
That's fair.
I think
I'd say 100% fair.
I think he benefits from two things. There's a lot of times, and we'll give a shout out in the African American community, you're raised in single parent homes. He comes off as a person who has been raised by an executive of an organization and has a father.
Yeah.
He don't have missteps. He don't have misquotes. He don't have, I got caught doing this. He the way he carries himself, the way he dresses, it comes off like, yeah, I already know what the game is. My pops done gave me the game. I'm thinking 3, 4, 5 steps, and you're not going to catch me on that. He's very good when it comes to that and managing image and different things like that, because it could have got ugly in Cleveland.
Oh, we talked about that before he signed the extension, that he was everything that they hoped he would be when they traded for him up until last summer when he signed, even before the extension. Like, they felt like they had a young, talented roster, and they needed a talented veteran to guide them and lead them, and he's done that, and he's been everything that they want him to be. He's really good at the PR game. He's really, really, really good at it, to your point, and that's probably from growing up around the game, from growing up in the professional industry. His dad obviously being executive with the Mets, so he understands how things work and operate. That's something that when you're 19, 20, 21, when you get thrust into this, you don't understand until you're in it, and then you kind of have to figure it out as you go, and he obviously had the benefit of seeing it up close.
Isn't it funny how Cleveland's sports team made two of the biggest blockbuster trades of the last 5 years, and one has been an absolute home run, and one has been one of the biggest disasters of all time.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
We got super chats to wrap up today's show. First one comes from Skilly, who says, well, that was incredibly frustrating and ugly to watch. So when do we start talking draft? This really sucks. I wanted to jump on before I have to start training. I'll catch the replay later. Ronaldo Archer says, the fish rots from the head down. Head coach, quarterback, GM will be insignificant as long as Haslam owns the team. We are in NFL purgatory. The Browns are like a blind man in a dark room.
I don't
things.
agree. I think you're hamstrung by a bad owner, but I don't think you can't ever be good because of a bad owner.
Yeah, you could think about it. Before LeBron James, people thought Dan Gilbert was a bad owner.
Yeah.
You get LeBron James, you can win. A quarterback can drag you out of purgatory.
And the criticisms of Dan, Jason, you know this better than anybody, are similar to the criticisms of Jimmy, right, in terms of meddling.
Yeah, he bought LeBron is here when he bought the team, so he had LeBron from day one.
Right.
But Dan very much has had the reputation of being a meddling owner prior to the health issues, and now we'll see. I mean, he's back. He's very much back, and we'll see if the seat of power changes anything at all.
Mike?
Next up comes from Jeffrey Moody, who says the Browns' diagnosis is simple. They need a new owner.
That's not going to happen.
You know, what are we going to do? You can't. He's not selling the team.
That ain't that. I wish I could tell people it. That's like saying I want the sky to be purple.
It's just more to overcome.
Yes.
It's not that they can't win with Jimmy Haslam. It's harder because he's not a good owner.
We'll see. We'll see if it's possible or not.
I don't know. I mean, again, I hate to keep bringing up the Bengals as an example because they're far from a good franchise. But, like, the Bengals got to the Super Bowl with Mike Brown.
He's been here. The Haslams have been here over 10 years now.
Yeah.
11, 12 years, I think they've owned the team.
I don't remember now. It's been...
How many playoff wins?
One.
I don't know how long they've been here, but I know it's one playoff win. Brian Suave asked us to diagnose the secondary's issues on third down. We did that.
We'll do that more with Dustin and Tyvis tomorrow.
Yeah. Chris Fox said, I was there. They have to stop the effing spread. And then Ray Smith, last one, says, you never see good organizations trading away all their good players for draft picks. Only in Cleveland do they listen to idiot fans and know-it-all media members. The Ravens, Steelers, 49ers, Chiefs don't do that.
The Steelers trade players away all the time.
Or they don't sign them.
Patriots did it all the time, too.
Yeah, Patriots used to make trades all the time. Who are the other teams he mentions?
The Chiefs, the Steelers.
Those teams are also not 2-7 at the trade deadline.
Yeah, the teams are not 2-7 in the trade deadline.
And they have quarterback. They have long-term answers at quarterback. Like, it's bona fide.
And we're not saying they're going to trade. Jason said they're going to trade 2 guys. I think they're going to trade 2-3 guys. Who's saying trade everybody?
I think everybody should be on the table. But ultimately, you're probably only going to get a deal done with probably 2.
And maybe
3.
Did he say great players?
Cornerstone.
What did he say? Cornerstone?
He said good players.
Okay.
I'll read it one more time, word for word.
Nah, forget it. It's not worth it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Move it. We'll keep moving.
Last thing. PFF just released their grades from yesterday.
Yeah.
On the defensive side of the ball, who do you think was the highest graded player?
Myles Garrett.
Shockingly, Myles Garrett finished 6th.
What?
On the highest graded Browns defensive players yesterday. Can you guess who was number 1? If Myles was 6th.
Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yes, with an 89.1 grade. Myles Garrett had a 71.4 grade, which let me check on the season.
Yeah.
That is his second lowest grade of the season, behind only the Jacksonville.
You know,
team.
in fairness, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but we as fans,
we look at sacks as opposed
all we
to
do
all
is
the
look at
plays.
sacks.
Yeah.
If a guy has 3 sacks, we say he had a good game, whether he did anything the rest of the game or not.
Right.
Because, like if you throw 4 touchdown passes and no picks, I don't care what you say.
Right. Yeah.
I saw 4 touchdowns.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, did we win? Yeah, I like that.
Jameis Winston was the 3rd highest graded offensive player for the Browns with a 65.
That's the 3rd highest? 65 is not
Yeah,
good.
Cedric Tillman was a 75.5.
Yeah.
Batonio was a 75. Winston was 3rd at a 65.5.
Oh, my God.
Njoku was the lowest, 43.5. DeJuan Jones, 2nd lowest, 48.6. Elijah Moore and Jerome Ford, 51s.
I didn't
Nick
realize
Chubb,
Jerome Ford
54. Wyatt Teller, 59. Pochich, Judy, and Conklin all
We
low
got to
60s.
straighten this out. Isn't it Posick?
Postage.
I think it's Posick.
I think you're right. I think it's post.
Because everybody keeps saying it different ways and wrong. We got to get this together.
Hey,
We got to get it right. I think it's Posick.
When you mention them scores, we go back to the super chat. You said what good players?
Yeah, right.
What players?
All right, we're talking Ohio State and their big win over Penn State in overtime. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Deuces.